Welcome back to the channel. My name is Melanie and I am super jazzed to be here as always. Today we're going to be discussing a full moon in Scorpio. Our full moon series cover all of the associations for the zodiac sign that the full moon falls in and are applicable for any full moon that falls in that zodiac sign, because I'm not going to be touching on any of the other transiting planets. So the information in this video you can use and reference for any full moon that falls in the zodiac sign of Scorpio. I hope you guys can hear me. I am obviously outside today in my beautiful backyard. There are lots of birds and sounds. You can probably even hear the creek. I hope it's relaxing and not annoying. I also want to quickly mention before we jump in here that yes, I have a black eye. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it on camera. I have put off filming this video as long as I can to hopefully have it healed up a little bit more and not be so obvious. I got head-butted by my mom's dog. She is a lovely dog. She's in a video somewhere, I'll link it. But Eden hit me with her head and my whole eye went black. So I am fine and healthy. I just am slightly bruised. Scorpio is a fixed water sign. It's at home in the 8th house, and its planetary ruler in the contemporary astrology world is Pluto, and its traditional ruler was Mars. I'm going to be talking a lot about the fact that Scorpio has two different rulers or planetary influences because it comes up a lot in the associations and the correspondences and Scorpio's energy. So it's important to cover. So do remember that the traditional ruler of Scorpio is Mars, and its contemporary or new ruler is Pluto. Obviously, Pluto is not considered a planet anymore, so that is up for you to decide where you feel Pluto falls into this. I'll do my best to cover both associations and some correspondences that include Pluto and Mars so that you have choices and options and you can make your own decisions as to what you work with and what you don't and what vibes well for you. But Scorpio does have two planetary rulers, Pluto and Mars. Scorpio being a water sign can be a little confusing for a lot of people. This plays into the Mars aspect of Scorpio because Scorpio is very fiery energy. It is a water sign, it is not a fire sign, but because it has shared rulership by Mars, it has that cutting fire, passion, and intensity that is often associated with fire signs. But the aspect of water ruling over Scorpio and Scorpio being a water sign brings in the depth, heaviness of Pluto. Not that they can't be lighthearted and fun and make jokes and be joyful, but they do have that really heavy, deep intensity to them, and that is the combination of the fiery Mars and the water element. Being a water sign, Scorpio is associated with emotions, feelings, imagination. It's very feeling-based, usually very sensitive individuals, not in a weak, sensitive way, but in a perception way. They take in a lot of information and can perceive a lot. Like we have touched on, the contemporary planetary ruler for Scorpio is Pluto. Pluto's associations are transformation, death, rebirth, renewal, traditionally ruled by Mars, which is that warrior, masculine archetype, the fire, go-getter, the drive, the external influence into the world. When I try and amalgamate both Pluto and Mars's energy, it often starts to look like creative destruction. And what I mean by that is destruction in order to then rebuild. So it's the de-evolution or the disintegration of power structures. It's undoing programs that you are not wanting to continue repeating. It is the destruction of potentially toxic cycles or things that don't work well for the whole in order to build later on. It makes me think of purging, surrender and release work. You've got all of this intensity and fire and passion and vigor and life essence, robust energy of Mars. That's a great word. It's robust. And then you have the transformative waters and energy and play with Pluto. So it's usually associated with the surrendering, purging, transformation, sometimes very intense and energetic and scary transformation, but big transformation. Very powerful movement. Scorpio is at home in the 8th house. The 8th house rules over death and rebirth, transformation, sex, the occult, your connection to other realms. It's can get confused or mixed up with the 12th house for that same reason, but the 8th house rules over more of those mysterious occult studies, the mysteries of life, the darker side of things for some people. Scorpio's modality is fixed, which means it is very stable, reliable, consistent. They tend to be a little bit more resistant to change. The other two water signs are Cancer, Pisces, and then Scorpio. So Scorpio's intensity in fire, I like to compare it to a pressure washer. It is fixed, very pinpointed, and when you pressurize water, you can literally cut diamonds. Pressure and precision of a fixed water sign can really get to the heart of any issue, especially because water is the emotional realm. You can view Scorpio as the water trickling down through the cracks of the earth, getting to the heart and to the core, finding the soft spot. This characteristic, this ability to get to the heart of an issue, to have that water trickle down through the hard shell and rock of the earth and get down to the real soft, gooey center of it all, can be really unnerving for a lot of people when they're working with the Scorpio archetype, because Scorpio goes right to the hard topics. If you don't want to or are scared to look at topics like death, rebirth, renewal, all of the mysterious occult realms, like the very big, heavy, nitty-gritty life topics that can be really daunting if you're someone who would prefer to be running around happy-go-lucky singing Kumbaya all the time, the Scorpio archetype can be really intense for those people. And the fifth thing I want to touch on for the Scorpio energy before we get into some associations would be its glyph. It is represented by a scorpion. When you look at the scorpion in nature, it tends to be an opportunist. It's very patient, and how it kills and hunts its prey is literally by bringing them in close and then very precisely stabbing them to death. So it is very patient. It is very submersive in the sense that it has to wait for its prey to come close, grab it, and then attack. It is definitely an opportunist, and it has that really hard, intense exterior, but as soon as you get through the exoskeleton, I've talked about Scorpio's planetary ruler being Pluto or Mars, being a water sign, being fixed in its modality, the scorpion representing it as its astrological glyph, it being at home in the 8th house. Before I discuss some of the associations and correspondences that I've found for you, I want you to take a few moments while I put this beautiful photo up and play some nice music for you so that you can reflect on what the Scorpio archetype brings up for you. When we are working with archetypes, I think it's really important to touch base with our own understanding of the energy we're trying to work in. I think it is wonderful that we have the internet and all of these tools to provide us with correspondences and direction and tools that we can use to call in archetypes or to get a certain result that we want. But I believe that it is more powerful and more sustainable in the long run for you to make some notes on what the Scorpio archetype means to you and what you naturally and automatically associate with the Scorpio archetype before I give you all of my suggestions and correspondences. This is an important step, in my opinion, because we often look to others to tell us what things mean before we give ourselves the chance to realize that we know some of this stuff. We have thoughts and feelings and opinions about what the Scorpio archetype looks like for us in our lives. This goes with the full moon as well. When we are doing a full moon ritual, there's many different things we can utilize that full moon energy for. So it's important before we dive into planning out a whole ritual or before we start writing the correspondences down and doing our affirmations or setting up our practice, that we establish what part of the full moon's energy and archetype we're calling upon. Are we wanting to do protection magic? Are we wanting to do some purging? Is it just a celebration? Are we here to do fear setting? So it's important to touch base with yourself before I throw a bunch of information and correspondences at you about what your intentions are. What are you trying to get out of this full moon in Scorpio? What is going to be the energetic focus of your ritual? How are you going to be using the full moon? What parts of the Scorpio archetype do you like? Do you not like? Take this time, do some self-reflection, and make a few notes. I'll see you back here shortly to give you my version of correspondences, associations, tools, tips, and tricks to utilize this full moon in Scorpio. First up on the list for associations and correspondences for Scorpio will be colors. The colors associated with Scorpio are maroon, black, purple, red, gold, and brown. Some gemstones or crystals, metals that can be associated with Scorpio or used to call in the Scorpio energy or archetype would be iron, black tourmaline, opal, topaz, and blood red carnelian. A few animals that you can work with to help embody or pull in that Scorpio energy would be scorpions, but also things like phoenixes and snakes. Both of those are good representations of the death and rebirth, the transformative energy of Pluto, the 8th house, and Scorpio in general, as well as the eagle. So it brings in that intellectual awareness, that patience, that calm, that tempered attitude to be able to hold back the emotional impulse to better strike, to be more effective and execute a cleaner mission later on. It's that kind of clever eagle eye perspective that the Scorpio archetype possesses. A few flowers or herbs would be chrysanthemum, basil, sage, nettle, catnip, and coriander. The tarot card for Scorpio in the major arcana would be the Death card. This is probably one of my favorite cards in the tarot deck. If you look up the Death card meaning, it is basically the energy of Scorpio in a nutshell. It speaks heavily about death and rebirth, renewal, that transformative action. If you look at the cycles of nature, everything that is alive must die, must decay. The Scorpio archetype gives you and lends you the strength to pay attention to and delve deep to those uncomfortable, harder topics that we often shy away from in our societies. I think the Death card often scares the shit out of people when it comes up in a tarot reading, and I want you to take this as an invitation to look deep into the cycles of your life that might need to come to an end. What do you have to release in order to then cultivate something better? The tarot card Death is a great energy, a great research project for you during the Scorpio full moon, especially because the full moon archetype itself, the energies that are at play with the full moon are often about release work. The illumination in the night sky that happens when you have the full moon allows you to see into the darkness of things that you could not see before. It's that illumination, right? And this is going to be a great opportunity to really dive deep and to look at some very hard topics. I want to mention two goddesses that are associated with Scorpio. One is Artemis. So Artemis was actually said to create the constellation Scorpius. Obviously, Scorpius is Scorpio's constellation in the sky. So Artemis is someone that you can call upon and work with during this time, or Kali. So Kali is one of the most complicated and in-depth goddesses that there is in the Hindu pantheon, and I find so many lessons and so many great ways to work with Kali. She is a goddess of death, sex, destruction, and she has that polarity to her, right? That divine goddess trait where you have this beautiful nurturer and this fierce warrior at the same time. It's the hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Kali is a beautiful archetype to call upon during the Scorpio full moon. She brings in that fiery Mars power as well, that transformative, life-altering, hoorah energy to really purge and really get it done. Chakras associated with Scorpio would be the solar plexus, the root, and the crown chakra. I want to elaborate a little bit on this because with most archetypes, there's multiple aspects that you can pull from. If you are going to be using this full moon in Scorpio to do a lot of sex magic and to really pull in that sexual creation, creatrix energy of Scorpio or this full moon, you're going to want to be working with your sacral chakra and your solar plexus chakra. So it depends on the type of ritual you're planning, the type of ceremony you're planning. If you're wanting to use Scorpio's ability to connect to the more mysterious and occult realms, this is when you would be engaging more heavily in your crown chakra, for example. Or if you're wanting to do a lot of death and rebirth work, engaging that root chakra, getting really grounded into Gaia and being really firm here in the present moment, working with your root chakra is what you'd be tapping to in that situation. So Become clear on what you want to get from your ritual, and I would recommend working or using the sacral chakra, the root chakra, and the crown chakra primarily with this Scorpio archetype. Things like death celebrations and mourning your lost ones and really appreciating the cycle of life. Not to get too philosophical on you, but life is only sacred because it ends. So the fact that we so often in our societies look away from the icky, sticky darkness of death really can take away some of the pure enjoyment and magic that is life if we're not willing to look at the reason why life is so sacred, the cyclical nature of it all. Which is a perfect thing to do for the full moon. Hi, Bubba. Hi, Bubba. I'm making video. Both of our dogs are very large and are under 7 months, so every time they run by, you just kind of brace. People in your life. So I can't tell you who in your life is a Scorpio, but I think it is a great way to make these archetypes tangible, to look at the people in your life that you know who are Scorpios. If your ritual involves and can involve someone else, you can always invite a Scorpio friend to come and join you. If you don't want someone physically there with you, you can ask if it's okay to call in their energy into your circle or into your ritual space to aid you and work with you in that time. A few famous people, if you're wanting to call in some famous people, would be Pablo Picasso was a Scorpio, Marie Antoinette was a Scorpio, Julia Roberts was a Scorpio, Whoopi Goldberg is a Scorpio. Working with people or looking up who are influential people in our society that are Scorpios, famous people, historic people, this really grounds in this archetypal energy and can give you good examples of what it looks like to have this larger than life archetype manifest in an actual human, so that you can potentially relate with it a little bit better than just trying to imagine what death, sex, and destruction looks like in a human. Now, the last correspondences I'll be giving would be the body parts associated with Scorpio. These are your reproductive organs. This also includes your blood system. So not necessarily your heart itself, but like your vascular system and the literal blood in your body is ruled by Scorpio. So now that we know what makes the Scorpio archetype, the fact that it is a fixed water sign, at home in the 8th house, ruled by Pluto, was ruled by Mars, you could work with either, both. So we've talked about what the Scorpio archetype generally looks like. It's a water sign, it's fixed, it's at home in the 8th house. Sex, death, rebirth, transformation, Pluto, Mars, all of these energies are at play during this full moon. What are we going to do with it all? There's a few different ways that you could use this. The divination aspect, if you have been putting off and trying to plan and orchestrate a good time to do a sex magic ritual to either manifest something, to purge or release something. If you work in the sex magic world whatsoever, this is a potently powerful time to do this ritual. If you don't know what sex magic is, don't worry about it. I'll make another video all dedicated to that another time. Purging, cleansing, death magic, death rituals, death ceremonies. So this can be literal funeral style for loved ones, family, friends that have passed away, organizing a little bit of a goodbye celebration, a goodbye letter. Purging rituals, letting go, release work. So this could be heavy emotions that you write down on a piece of paper and you burn them, or if it is biodegradable and safe for the environment, releasing something down a creek, writing on a leaf, throwing stones in an ocean. All of these things are great symbolic practices of releasing burdens. If you're someone who does small rituals frequently, a full moon in Scorpio would be a great time to attempt a more involved, a more elaborate, more ceremonial magic style of ritual, because the 8th house rules over the occult. It is a great time to really try and embody that very, very witchy juju. Elemental focuses during this full moon would be fire and water. So when you're doing your release work, burning something or sending something down the creek or into a lake would be great. Sex magic, like I said, that fire, that passion, that intensity is rampant in the Scorpio archetype, but also during the full moon, it is a culmination time, a celebratory culmination time, energetically speaking, and can be definitely used for that. So inner child shadow work type ceremonies or rituals. really kind of getting to the core of something. If you are someone who does something like fear setting, where you write down the worst possible case scenario and you keep going on that line of questioning, if I made this life choice, what's the worst thing that could happen? If that happened, what would I do and how would I get out of that situation? Could I survive it? Is it going to be the end of my business? Is it going to be the end of that personal relationship? That is the fear setting process of getting really clear on the genuine issue that might be holding you back from making movement in that area of your life. You could do this as a journaling exercise. Then you continue and follow on your line of questioning until you get to the core root of the problem, or the core inhibition that is holding you back, the core fear, or the core need that's not being met. This is a great energy to utilize the penetrative aspect of this fixed water sign. It is so precise. This Scorpio energy can get to the heart of things so easily. I think the Scorpio full moon would be a good time to look at your cognitive programming and patterns and have a come to Christ moment where you cut the shit and stop doing things that no longer serve you. This is a very intense, powerful, cutting energy that you can really utilize. You can really get clear on who you are, what you want, and what you don't want to be moving forward. The illumination of the full moon and the powerful energy of transformation that the Scorpio archetype, Pluto, as well as Mars can cause and create is a perfect kind of vortex to look at who you are and see if it's in alignment with the type of person that you want to be in this world. The creative destruction energy is huge. I've mentioned it earlier, but being able to destroy what you have and be comfortable, brave, and empowered enough to know that from the ashes you shall rise like a phoenix, or a snake that sheds its skin and comes out shiny and new. This is the Scorpio archetype. This is the full moon juju, and it is a great time to evaluate where you are at, look at who you could be, who you want to be, and who you know you are, and move in that direction. So whether that involves doing the release work during this full moon, or drawing out your ideal life that you're wanting to call in, manifest, and solidify in this 3D world. Because I always like to add in here that full moons are also for simple celebrations, and if you are not trying to revolutionize your life, or you're fairly content with where you are at, but you're still wanting to utilize the Scorpio full moon energy, and you're still wanting to do some type of ritual or ceremony, by all means, throw yourself a little party, whether that is with people or without people, by yourself. You have a bonfire, you run around, you dance, you sing, you have a drink. I think it is very important to remember in the spiritual world that full moons can be just a time of joy, a time of lightness, a time of celebration. So if you want to celebrate during the Scorpio full moon, you could do it by having copious amounts of sex. You could do it by dancing around a fire, go swimming naked, get in touch with that wild person inside of you, and really sink into that witchdom, that freedom, that energetic release, that celebratory relaxation that you can when you are having a full moon party for the Scorpio full moon. Dance around a fire naked or something. It's all good. Do something that brings joy and lightness to your heart for the full moon. It doesn't have to be a time of intense shadow work. It can be, and especially a full moon in Scorpio is a great time to get into that nitty-gritty. But with how heavy the world is, sometimes we just deserve a break, and full moons can be that celebratory fun time for us as well. That is it for my Scorpio full moon video, my friends. I hope these associations, these correspondences, and this discussion around the Scorpio archetype proves useful for you. If you have any questions about the associations, the correspondences, or the Scorpio archetype at all, let me know in the comments below and I will do my darndest to answer those questions for you. I hope you have a fantastic full moon. Live long and prosper, and I will see you guys very shortly with another video. Bye-bye.